Broadcasting from Watts Creative Studios and live on Grove Street FM. You're listening to Talk Local to Me, brought to you by the Central Virginia Business Coalition.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Talk Local to Me. I'm Heather Alto, Executive Director of the Central Virginia Business Coalition, and I'm here today with Mike Norfield, Visiting Angels. Y'all have heard his wonderful voice before.
Once or two times.
Once or two times or five, probably more throughout the year. And then I am here with Alicia Smith with F&S Building Innovations and the Build Smart Institute. And I feel like you just do a plethora of many things. I think, Alicia, you bring so much to the table with everything that you do in the community, not just with your business and everything else, but we're going to talk a lot about the Build Smart Institute today and what they offer. I think a lot of people don't know about the Build Smart Institute, and I am here to tell you it's fabulous if you haven't been there or learned about it, and we're going to talk more about that. So, last week we talked about 2022 business trends, and a lot of those, we were talking about your marketing. We were talking about, your social media presence. We were talking about, all those things that you think of, but we didn't talk a lot about jobs and job markets and, things that you have to have in your business as well, employees and staffing. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that. But also, if you're listening in today, and I'm going to kind of go back to Alicia with the Build Smart Institute, we're going to be talking about how even as someone in college, someone coming out of high school that's looking for that career that you necessarily aren't trying to go to that 4-year,
right?
Institute. You're not going to college. You're not going to a university. You're ready to get right into the job market. And there are jobs there.
There are so many jobs there. The awesome thing about 2022 is there are so many challenges right now from people that are recovering from pandemic situations. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they've experienced sickness. There are challenges everywhere you turn. But the good thing about challenges is there are always opportunities. And the opportunities right now for job seekers are unlimited. And that's across the board in every industry. Everybody says we're hiring, and that means they are motivated. They're motivated to give you a good job with good pay, with great opportunities to move up.
And one of the things that, excuse me one second, because my lovely daughter is in the other room, and I think she's playing her video game, and I can hear it. Okay, thanks. Sorry, we got a little one. I have a little one that had to stay home for a couple days. So I'm doing my part as a parent, keeping her out of school, even though she's tested negative for...
We tried to bring her on as a guest, but she declined.
Yeah, she didn't want to talk. But that's probably because her throat hurts. And before I get into, we've tested negative for all the top 3. No COVID, no flu, no strep. So she just has a viral... upper respiratory infection, because they do still exist. So sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt our podcast today, but that was my my medical note. But one of the things I see a lot on Facebook or on social media, I see people that are like, I need a job. And then I also see people talking about we need employees. And so it's like, how do we get that to mesh? Like, how do we get more people contacting these employers? And also too, and I'm going to kind of ask the two of you, with the new minimum wage going into effect, and I don't know how much that affects you guys so much as maybe the small business that's like, a couple of employees or, but I saw the other day, and this really, honestly, and it threw me for a loop, and I try not to post too much on social media, so it's not like, well, Heather said, but,
But we all want to know what you said, Heather.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just say, here's we're going to get some Heather input today. I saw somebody that posted for a local restaurant that they were hiring. A great post. They needed an entry-level front-end worker, and it basically said you have to start at the bottom, and then there are opportunities to move up along the way. Go figure. I mean, that's usually how it works. And they posted that the starting pay was $12 an hour. Well, minimum wage right now is $11. Am I correct? As of January? Okay. I have never seen so many comments belittling this person for the low pay that they were offering.
I saw that.
And I was appalled, honestly. I was like, here's the reason why we're in the situation we're in. People are not willing to go out there and work for, minimum wage now even, which is way higher than minimum wage was when I started out. I mean, I started working my first job was at FunQuest Skating Rink in Lynchburg. And I want to say I made $7 maybe.
My first job, I made $4.25.
Yeah, it might have been less. It might have been less than that. And I was a snack bar hostess and birthday hostess at the skating rink. But back then, at the age of 16, that was awesome for me. I needed money. It was a fun job, I don't know.
But here's the thing with starting pay. I don't care what industry you're in or where you go to work. Starting pay is a starting pay. If you get to work and you work hard and you have a good attitude, you're not going to stay at that starting pay for very long. As long as you invest in your job and give it 100%, that is not going to last very long because employers are so desperate for motivated, invested employees. They're going to move you up. If you're willing to work, they're going to be willing to pay. But you got to start somewhere. I mean, we all did.
Well, and for those of you looking for, what's better, $0 or $12 an hour? Like, I don't grasp the concept of, well, your starting pay is too low. You're never going to get anyone. I don't know.
I guess that's part of Build Smart Institute's mission is for people that maybe they are in a career that is really not a career. It's just a job. They don't love it. They don't feel fulfilled. Or maybe you are a young adult just starting. Maybe you've just graduated high school. You can make a choice to go to a retail job and make a set amount. Or Build Smart Institute provides an opportunity to get some really expedited training that's going to let you start not at that base starting entry, but several notches above that. And there are so many companies in our area, in the Roanoke, Lynchburg, Bedford area, that are looking for those motivated folks that they might hire you immediately for, an apprenticeship or just a paid job. That, it really accelerates your opportunity in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I know one of our other podcasters, Brandon Brown with Cool Talk, he's hiring for at least 2 HVAC technicians, and he's been trying to get some HVAC technicians in for a while now. So, yeah, and those are the types of jobs I'm talking about, like, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, welding.
Tile layers.
Yes.
Even, obviously I'm focused on the construction industry because it's what pays my bills every day and it's what I'm invested in. But even in the construction industry, you still have people in administrative positions, in accounting positions, in design positions. So maybe you're into digital and video games. Think about all of the 3D renderings and drawings that have to be done for construction projects. There are so many opportunities if you'll just go for it.
Yep. And I didn't even think about that. So you just, light bulb over my head for those. I was just sitting here thinking about those basic ones I was talking about. But Mike, what are you, like, as far as CNAs, RNs, things like that, like, what is the need for those still in our area?
So there's still a big need in the healthcare across the board. You look at any, like on Indeed, there's, I think almost 1,000 jobs in different forms of healthcare across Virginia. I know that's a big space, but there's always kind of a need in our industry, just because we usually are growing. People, when they have care, usually they end up needing more care, so usually that requires more staff, and it's just kind of an ongoing thing. We've seen just now we have started seeing more applications come in. But what boggles my mind is, you get people that'll apply for a job, go through the process, do a phone interview, go to come into the first interview, and they don't show. I had 2 not show this morning. And it's, so as an employer, it's frustrating. But as, my son's also 18, just graduated in, this last year now, I guess. And when he went looking for a job, he's like, I'm going to go get a job. I want to be a mechanic. And 2 weeks later, he had a job. So, I think it's, important for, whether the starting pay is there that you want or not. Like you said, it's exactly that. It's starting pay. We are not a minimum wage employer, so we don't bring people in at minimum wage. We bring them in, at least a couple dollars above that. We've worked hard to make sure we're above that. But even so, we've got some of our competitors are still paying, $8, $9, or $11 an hour now, I guess. And I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't know where it's going with that, but
maybe
I just
it's
don't understand where they're
because
coming
people
from.
know that minimum wage is supposed to go to 15 at some point in a couple of years, and they just assume everyone should just go to that now, you know. And, I haven't really said much about how I feel that's going to affect small businesses, but I think people can see even now. I go to the grocery store, I go to different places, and the amount of the pricing that has gone up. I mean, it is crazy. Like, I looked the other day and it was like bacon was like $7 and something.
Right.
I said, well, there's no more bacon for our family. I'm going to go buy a pig or something, raise it in the backyard.
Right.
I just think that the more that people keep expecting small businesses or employers to, keep these costs right, keeping the pay right, it's gonna snowball. And then we're going to be just as bad off as we were before minimum wage went up. Because I don't think people realize that when things go up, other things have to go up with it. So the cost of living is still what the cost of living is.
Right. Yeah, we've had to raise our prices in January of this year, just a couple of weeks ago, just to keep up with our increase in pay, because we have a very aggressive course to raise our pay over the next couple of years to stay ahead of that $15 an hour in, I think, 2026, I think it is. So, we understand people don't, it doesn't matter what minimum wage is. Nobody wants to work that in their mind, they don't want that minimum wage. They want, oh, well, this is so many dollars above minimum wage and that's what's good. But, a lot of times, we work very hard to make sure our employees are treated well. When we went up on our wages, we went up across the board, and, I had several of our employees that came and said, thank you for the raise, but we didn't expect that, because we're a good company to work for. So if, you're working for a company and you don't like the pay and you don't like how you're treated, you're not going to stay very long. So, it's just getting people in the door, I guess, is the biggest challenge.
And in the construction industry right now, I really don't know any companies that are only paying minimum wage.
Right.
I mean, starting pay, if you're a helper with no experience, typically is going to be more than minimum wage, a good bit more than minimum wage. And like I said, if you work hard, there's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
Part of Build Smart's mission is to, I guess, light the entrepreneurial spirit. There is plenty of work to go around. Obviously, I'm not fanning the flames of competition for FNS, but by the same token, Build Smart's goal is purely to help the industry, and we've partnered with so many large companies in the area. Our goal is to help the construction industry, to provide training, because it's so desperate. In our industry, there are so many times where we just hire somebody and put them in the field and put them to work without giving them the training that we need. So Build Smart's able to do that so that these employers are getting more qualified employees. We're training them not just in the art of construction, but employability, how to be on time, how to conduct yourself, a lot of the basics that get left by the wayside.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Build Smart Institute, because I really want to, I want more people to know about it. I want more people to realize that it's out there. I know that when people think about getting training for, what I would consider like those career industry jobs, not like going through, not becoming your doctors and your lawyers and your, 4-year college degree. But those that are really coming into those career fields, they think about, okay, well, I can go to CVCC, take a class, maybe. There's the, was it Virginia Technical Institute in Alta Vista? But, I've talked to a couple people and I'm like, have you heard of Build Smart Institute? And some have, some haven't. And I think y'all have been open now for a couple of years too.
We actually opened in October of 2020. So just over a year.
Just over a year. And I remember I got to come out to your grand opening, and, I was expecting like just a kind of like a school, and when we got there and I walked into this building that had, it was fabulous. Like all the things that y'all have done to create the Build Smart Institute. I just think more people need to know that it's out there and it's an opportunity. So tell us a little bit just about Build Smart, how it became about, where you're located.
So one of our goals with Build Smart was to be able to train people not in a way of you learn from a book, you teach from a book. We wanted to be authentic in giving people hands-on training in the trades. So we do have a little over a 10,000 square foot facility, because obviously if you want to be able to build things and teach with your hands, you've got to have space to do that. So we've got a full 10,000 square foot area with every tool that you can think of, where students actually get to use these tools and mark and measure the lumber, cut the lumber, frame the walls, hang the drywall, run the plumbing, run the electrical. You know, we run in several lanes at Build Smart too. We work with from high school students through adults in programs that are called Core Fundamentals to learn all the basics of those areas. And of course, you can stack on to that if you choose the carpentry lane or the plumbing lane or electrical lane, you know, and get full certification through NCCER, which is a national accredited organization. But we also are trying to help companies that are already in business. Again, our industry is infamous for sometimes not giving the training that's needed for employees to be able to succeed. So we partner with all the local contractors. You know, if somebody, we can customize curriculums. So if somebody comes to us and says, you know, we've got this team of 4 guys that really need some project supervision, we've got curriculums for that. If they are project managers, we've got curriculums for that. We had a company that came to us and said, we'd really like some specific training for light gauge steel framing, for hanging and finishing drywall, for acoustical ceilings. So we packaged a customized curriculum for that. And the good thing is we're really light on our feet. You know, the hard thing in our industry is people don't want to take you out of production in order to train you. And I get that because I sit on both sides of that fence. When you have so much work coming your way, you need your folks in the field making production. But, you know, this training is extremely important. So we can customize it if that means evenings, if that means 4 hours a day for over 4 weeks. However you need to make it work so that you can still be productive and give your employees the training that they need, we can customize it all for you. So it's not just an a la carte. Well, it is an a la carte kind of thing, but it's so customizable to be able to work within the schedules of whoever we're working with. Build Smart Institute really came, my dad, probably 5 or 6 years ago, he said one day, you know, we're failing in our industry. We need to start a construction school. And everybody's like, oh, okay, whatever, construction school. Okay, Dad, got it. But, you know, as time went on, it became extremely evident that that wasn't just a pipe dream. Like, this is so needed, desperately needed across the industry. So in 2018, we started the process of research and development and planning and spent a couple years in that process. And now we have the Build Smart that we see here today.
So I want to kind of touch back on something that you were talking about, because I knew that you guys had classes and people could sign up for just, you know, a semester of courses through this and that. I did not think about the customization part of it for employers. And so I want to kind of touch back a little bit more on that. So if anyone kind of was listening but was like, oh, you know, did I really hear what she said?
Right.
So if you are an employer, and let's say you have 2 employees that you could really see being a great fit to move up into a certain area of your, you know, your business.
Yes.
They can contact you and say, hey, can you do some training for these 2 so that we can move them up? And it kind of goes into what we were talking about with pay, because then you're going to see that pay raise if someone comes in and does well and learns. So you can do that for businesses.
Absolutely. We say all the time, tell us what you need. With NCCER, we've got hundreds and hundreds of curriculums that we can pull and choose and customize, again, based on how much time you want to spend, you know, how much you want to invest. We try to make it as easy as possible, and it really is. And I'll tell you, another benefit that employers who have sent people through get is when we bring on a group that you send to us, we're going to take time to understand, what are your goals? What results do you want to see? And what do you want us to instill in your employees? You know, every employer has certain things that they may focus on within their business. So the benefit from us is we're a third party. So when we have your folks in our class, we have the opportunity to chat with them, to impart on them some things that you have as a focus, but also garner feedback. And the employers that have sent people to date have really valued that feedback, because we're a third party. We don't have a dog in the fight.
Right.
And those folks feel free to share with us, all right, these are some of the challenges that we're seeing. And a lot of times we can help those employers. They're like, you know what, we didn't even know that. And the other thing is, in construction companies, if you've got a bunch of project managers, they may never cross paths. They're out on different jobs all day long. But when you get them in that room to cross-pollinate and share ideas and share what they're encountering, a lot of times you can come up with a solution because they're coming from different perspectives. The problem is they're just never in the same room at the same time to talk through those and arrive at solutions. That's been one of the, I guess, the side benefits that we've seen that we really didn't plan for or think about. But employers are like, this is what we got out of it, regardless of the training that the folks that took the courses got.
See, I think that's fabulous. And again, see, and here's why I love doing this podcast, because I learned so much about you guys that I didn't know, and with part of my job being to promote and get your information out. I love being able to just sit here and talk and learn more about what you do. I know that one of the things, though, that I have seen, Alicia, is that you actually have businesses that contact you and say, who do you have coming out of
all the time,
these classes, because they're hiring and they need trained individuals.
All the time.
So for people that are looking for work, it's definitely a good opportunity to come in and get trained, because you do constantly have people hiring.
We do, and we really try to be a full workforce development platform. So when people come out of courses, if they're ready to get a job, like you said, we have people calling all the time saying, we need graduates. Do you have people graduating? We're ready to hire. So we can actually help, once they've been through some of the courses, the instructors kind of have a feel for where their strengths are or where they might be a good fit. So we help connect them with local companies, and we've had quite a few folks. I mean, as soon as they, finished one course, hired as apprentices, and these are paid apprentices. There's one young man who was 14 years old. He was homeschooled. So he, was limited into some of his contact that you have if you're just in more of a public setting. When Bedford County gave a grant to pay for 20 scholarships to come to Build Smart for the core fundamentals of construction, he was the recipient of one of those grants. So the county's investment sent him to Build Smart. It was just it's available. They were in the middle of COVID. He had nothing else to do. His parents said, we'll bring him. So he came. This young man finished core fundamentals of construction, got hired as a paid apprentice, more than minimum wage, at 15 years old, to a local HVAC company, and has determined, he said, I'm going to own my own HVAC company one day. We did a piece on him, and he said, I never thought about construction. So for a 90-hour course, it has completely changed maybe the whole course of his life, because now he's plugged into a job that can become a career that may lead to him owning his own business, just because of how those stars aligned. And he ended up at Build Smart Institute for a 90-hour course, and he had no idea he was interested in construction. Right. And look where he's headed now.
And, another thing I think of is you hear people say, well, there's so many different HVAC companies. There's so many different electricians. There's so many this and that. But then I see people that are like, well, I've contacted this person and they're too busy. And I've contacted this person and they're too busy. So there's work out there.
Absolutely.
And so for someone like him that's like, I'm going to own my own company one day, that's fabulous. I mean, get the training, go in, work with another company and get that, knowledge. And, I think that's awesome to see at that young of an age. So
it is. And I will say, the employers that have hired these folks that have come in as apprentices, they have nothing but good things to say. They're like, they started out well prepared. They were several steps ahead of anybody just coming off the street. And those employers are investing in them further. If they want to continue their education track, some of them are paying for that further education to move further in the HVAC lane or the carpentry lane or the electrical lane or, wherever their business is. So it's such a great opportunity. And there are so many people that are all in, not just Build Smart Institute, but our whole industry is invested in it.
Now, I know you spoke of like the core fundamentals class, but speaking of the different lanes, like what different kind of services do you provide courses for right now?
So there's construction technology, and that is, if you take the full, it's a four semester course, and that kind of focuses on remodeling. So it covers every area of remodeling, even down to building cabinets and everything. You've got your carpentry lane, which focuses obviously more just on framing and that kind of thing. Plumbing, electrical, mechanical. We've got quite a few courses that are about ready to launch. One is going to be property management. We've had some national property management associations reach out to us about needing some training in our area. So we've been developing a program for that. Like I said, project supervision, project management, and some of those courses, they cross into different industries. You know, project management and supervision can be tailored outside of the construction industry.
I feel like I need to come take courses just so I can like redo my own home.
Well, that's the awesome thing about core fundamentals. We tell some of these kids, look, construction may not be for you. You may never go down this lane. But I tell you what, in 10 years, when you're married and your kid kicks a hole in the wall and your wife's hollering about it, you're not going to have to call a handyman. You can fix that sucker yourself.
Right.
Yes. I have a hole in my door where, like, the door, like, you know, her door, the doorknob. We don't have like one of those stoppers where it hits it. And one day she slung her door open and bam, right into the wall it went. So, you know, we have a doorknob size hole right there in the wall, which, you know, doesn't really bother you too much when the door is open. But, you know, when you see it, sometimes you're like, oh, I got to fix that. But
well, you
who has time?
Come to Bill Smart one afternoon. We'll show you how to fix that.
I am. I'm going to come take a class.
That definitely needs to be a video.
We can do.
Of you doing
We
the
can make
course.
that happen.
We can do like a Where's
Yeah.
Heather Wednesday, learning
There you
how
go.
to do,
There you go.
doing how to learning how to put up some drywall and plastering, and I'm assuming that's what you do. I don't know. I'm just sitting here throwing out words.
We can make it happen.
But you know, you're right, because you know, my husband, he's been a mechanic all his life, and he did he does he's a forklift technician right now, but he knows all that mechanical stuff. He used to work on small business equipment, lawnmowers and all that stuff. But you know, when my car breaks down, I do not ever have to go to a shop. I just come home and I say, hey, you know, can you roll my car up into the garage? And he can pretty much fix it. That poor thing. He's done everything, alternators and engines. And I mean, you name it, he's put something on my car. But, you know, I think that's another thing, is just knowing how to do something yourself is an accomplishment. Like, I feel accomplished when I can fix. I always joke that I'm a mechanic too now, because I can like watch him, so I know how to do like small things. But
You know how to tell them, like, I don't think you're doing that right.
yeah, I do. I tell him
Yes.
that all the time. I'm like, are you sure
Yeah.
you're supposed
Are you sure
to mess
that's
with
right?
that? Are you sure I'm supposed to have oil there? You know.
I'm
Stuff
sure
like
he
that.
loves that.
He does not. He does not at all. Except for the problem with that is, let me just say real quick, then I'm getting off track. But the problem with that is like, I hate to let him drive my car, because as soon as we go down the road, he's like, you hear that
You
noise?
hear that squeak? You hear that rattle?
You hear that? No, you need new wheel bearings. You need a whole new transmission. You need this or that. And I'm just like,
At which
No.
point you say, no, I just need a new car, honey.
exactly. I'm like, no, that's just a random noise. Like, I didn't know. He was like, oh, you need to listen to your car. I'm like, I'm listening to the radio.
Right.
Just turn it up. But anyway, so, you know, you mentioned Bedford County, but I also know that you work with school systems as well, right? That may want to come in and have a class there, or bring their kids in for trainings.
Absolutely. We can also, always partner with CTE programs. And Build Smart has a virtual program too. So even if they don't bring their folks to Build Smart, there's that virtual portal that has tons of training videos, that has quizzes that they can give, that has a tracking system so that they can track, once their students take those quizzes and once they've passed them. So that's an opportunity for local schools. That's just an add-on bonus. It's super affordable, and a ton of training videos that are available. We've partnered with several local school systems for that.
What areas do you have, that you service more, come? And I know you have bus services. You do some pickups for people that need transportation.
So we're based in Roanoke, is where our facility is. And for now, transportation for the most part is up to the individual.
Right.
Now, when we have a lot of folks, we do have the Build Smart bus. If you've seen it, it's the big black bus with that Build Smart logo plastered on the side. You can't miss it going down the street. But if we've got enough people in a certain locality for a class, then we will run it. We did that for Bedford County when we had that many students come in. We had a pickup point and a drop-off point. We can't do it when you've got people in Bedford and Lynchburg and Roanoke.
Right.
That's kind of a nightmare to coordinate. But if we've got enough folks in an area, that's why we got the bus, so that we can kind of help with that transportation piece.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Now you did like I said, you did your grand opening back in October of 2020. Or November, actually. I think it was right at the beginning.
October 30th.
Okay, I knew it was right there at the
Yep.
end. But you're getting ready to have an open house coming up.
We are this coming Tuesday from 5 to 7, which is the 18th. We've got, I don't know, 10 or 12 local companies. This is kind of a free-for-all open house. So we're inviting local construction companies who are willing to invest in people to come work for them. We're inviting students. You know, if you're 14 years or older, you can participate in a Build Smart Core Fundamentals class. We're inviting adults that are looking to find out more about job opportunities. We're inviting parents of students. Our goal for this open house is just to get everybody in the same room to see how we can help you to build our community. Because, you know, the slogan everybody seems to be using last year is better together, and it kind of gets worn out. You get sick of hearing it. But the bottom line is that's true. If we can make those connections, it will benefit our community and benefit, you know, the individuals personally. We want to see everybody succeed, have a fabulous salary, making a difference. And that's how you do that, is get people connected. Part of the problem is everybody's kind of in their individual silos sometimes, and there's not that opportunity to connect. So our goal for this Tuesday night is from 5 to 7 is just to connect, put people in the same room, and usually exciting things happen from that.
That's awesome. So if it's a construction company, or, you know, just a parent that wants to bring their child out to learn more about what you guys do.
Absolutely. And we've got several courses that are starting. The next Core Fundamentals class, and this one is Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 4 to 6, starts January 25th. But we're also in February doing an accelerated class. So if you are homeschooled or you're an adult, and there are lots of adults that take these Core Fundamentals class too. There's one right now. But it's a 3-week crunch class. So you can come 5 days a week for 3 weeks and get your full Core Fundamentals certification in that crash class, which is really good for adults that are looking for an opportunity. Give me a way to plug in. And we have scholarships available. I know the Central Virginia Business Coalition helped with that.
That's what we're getting. Yeah, I was just getting ready to roll into cost of, you know, these courses and things like that. What is the normal, like, if you're looking at doing like maybe the Core Fundamentals?
So every course is different based on hours, but Core Fundamentals is $1,900.
Okay.
And this is a higher education class. It is, like you mentioned earlier, it's no different than going to CVCC or any of those classes. It's an accredited course. But all courses are different. And like I said, especially for employers, we can customize, you know, depending on how much time you want to allot. So, you know, there are a lot of seminars that may be $300, you know, so anything in between.
Yes. And so you mentioned scholarships, and which we haven't put our scholarship out yet. I've been slacking.
But you raised the money.
We raised the money.
The important
yes.
part.
So I will say this. The Central Virginia Business Coalition does have a scholarship. And it's the Derek James Hamlet Memorial Scholarship that we started last year in memory of my brother, who was a machinist. And we have raised the money for one full scholarship for that. And this year we will be doing again our putt-putt tournament that we did to raise that money. So our
Which
hope
was so fun, by the way.
It was. And I'm so excited for it this year because we're going to look at moving it. We did it from like 8 a.m. till 2. But this year we're going to move it more from like 3 to 8. So in the evening, so more people can bring families.
So I can't make the excuse that this is work.
I mean, if you come at 3, you can leave early.
Okay.
I'm still putting you in the
Go
work
ahead.
hour time
Book me for
frame.
the 3 o'clock then. That way I can get out of work.
So they can get out of work. But we thought we had a lot of people that played last year, and they're like, you know, that putt-putt's something fun you can still do with children, with kids. And, you know, putt-putt doesn't allow me to have a beer truck. So it's not that I can run around with, you know, like you have golf tournaments where you have the beer carts. You know, I can, but so, you know, it's a fun thing you can do with your family to help support a scholarship program and just, you know, have some fun. So our goal is, you know, we raised enough last year for one scholarship. My goal is to continue to do that annually. But, you know, the more we see, sponsorships or teams, and we can continue that, this is to purely go into that trade field. We want to raise money so that we're helping to support those that want to, they're entrepreneurs. They want to go out and start in this trade field, maybe cannot they don't want to do the 4-year college. They don't want to, and it's such a need. And our support for small business, we have a lot of members that are contractors and service providers. And for us, this is just a way to give back and to support them by being able to offer a scholarship that in turn can bring them employees and things like that. So, I think as far as, we're working on that scholarship. They have scholarships there. So, I mean, it may just be that we say, hey, here's the money, and we can give that to a local individual that is in need. So we're going to get that together quite soon. That's on my to-do list. It's a very long.
You said that
to-do
open house was next Tuesday?
Yes, this
at
coming
5 to
Tuesday,
7.
5 to 7.
And where's that located?
The address is 701 Gainsborough Road. It's just past the Berglund Center. If you're going down 460 from Bedford, right after you go under the underpass, Gainsborough Road turns to the left, and we're maybe a block down on the left.
Perfect.
And you'll see all the big construction equipment in the parking lot. You can't miss it.
And that's why I tell people it's in Roanoke, but I'm like, Roanoke is very large. It's a large area. Yeah. But where you guys are at, you're very centrally located, in my opinion, even if you're coming from like Lynchburg or Bedford or Benton, Smith Mountain Lake area. Christiansburg, all of those areas, Salem. It's very easy to get to. On and off the highway, even like if you're coming 81 or if you're coming 460, it's really, really simple.
Yeah. And I mean, we've had some folks from out of town that are wanting to come, and there's a hotel, right there on the corner. So it is a good location.
Yeah. So just to kind of, to recap the Build Smart Institute. And let me just say too, another thing before I go into that, one of the other things I love about what you've done with Build Smart Institute, and kind of goes back to what you were saying right at the beginning, is, you are part of FNS Building Innovations, a construction company, but you aren't doing this as part of FNS. It is completely, separate, and you're working to help other companies. And I think that's awesome.
In fact, people ask us about that, and FNS has not hired one person that came out of Build Smart Institute to date. We have forwarded them all to other companies for that very reason. We are there to help. They are completely different companies anyway. Same ownership, but different companies. But our goal is to help the construction industry, not build FNS. So for that reason, we forwarded everyone that's come through that's wanted to be hired to date directly to other companies.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. So again, now I'm going back to my recap. So Build Smart Institute. If you're listening in today and you're thinking to yourself, I really want to learn more about this, what's your website? How can they find out more? How can they even sign up?
So it's very easy. It's www.buildsmartinstitute.com. So you can't miss that. Or you can just call and chat with Rob or Kathy or Wesley. That's 540-900-3340. They'll be happy to fill you in on everything that's available. The other thing is, on our website of buildsmartinstitute.com, there is a full course catalog that you can download. So that's an opportunity just to go through. And there are, I don't know how many courses, but it's a whole book. So you can kind of skim through that and see if anything seems interesting, and just call us and talk about it. There are so many opportunities, and we have so much connectivity with all the local organizations. Just call us and talk. I promise we can help.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on here today and telling us more about it. And I'd love to have you come back kind of quarterly so we can just kind of see the different changes or things like that. Or even have one of your, graduates come on and chat. I think that would be super awesome.
Name the time. We have several.
that would be really, really great.
Maybe it could be Heather after she learns how to patch a hole.
Yes. Or I was just thinking, I want new cabinets in my kitchen. So maybe I need to come learn how to build cabinets. Yeah, right. We'll see if they...
Maybe you should just buy those.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to hold my comment on that one.
I'll build a cabinet and you'll see like all the glass. Like, next thing will be like everything's on the ground, glasses smashed everywhere. It's okay. I know where my abilities, my strengths are. It's definitely not that. But no, thank you so much. And I'll give a big thank you to FNS Building Innovations, because they are a champion sponsor of the Central Virginia Business Coalition. And so, without you guys and without things that you help us do, we can't do, what we do for small business. And I think that's big. And I'll also say that with Visiting Angels, because Mike, you were also so I'm going to just say I've accidentally left him off our banner, and he was very, very nice to me. I printed out his
Wow.
logo and taped it on there.
That was
So
nice.
now it's there. So
And
now
it
it's there.
wasn't even in color. It was black and white, but who's paying
I
attention?
didn't have a color printer.
You know, you could have called, Mike, can you bring me a printed logo?
And this is how you know your sponsors still love you
I
when you do
mean-
things like that.
You know,
They still agree to sponsor again for another year.
that's right.
Oh goodness.
Well, I get a free upgrade next year, right? Is that?
And we'll talk.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway. So
That's like when I tell my kids, "We'll see," which
We'll see.
automatically
That
means
means
no.
no. Yeah.
Oh, so for me it means yes. Like I say we'll see, and then like a few minutes later she's doing it and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, well, you said yes. No, I did not. I said we'll see. So yeah, I guess people interpret that a different way. But
I guess
anyway. Yeah. So visiting angels, let's chat a teeny bit about
Yeah.
what you guys are doing coming up this year. You have anything new since the last time you came in or?
So we do. We're actually, along the same lines as what she was talking about with the Build Smart Academy. We're starting to, we require certification for people to work with us with either a personal care aide or a CNA, something like that. And we've actually started sending people to monthly classes with Raspberry Hill Adult Training, a healthcare training.
Okay.
Who is also a CVABC member.
Yep.
And we've started sending at least one person a month through that. And we'll be, they don't know this yet. So if they hear this, surprise, we're going to be talking to them about actually sponsoring some classes and trying to get some more people in, just because it is such a competitive field to get CNAs to come work for us, or PCAs, things like that. So, we've had probably 14 applicants this year, in the whole 3 weeks that we've had this year, 2 weeks. Of people wanting to come work for us, but they don't have that certification. So we've, tried to develop this program and work to make sure that we can provide that education, and we do it at no cost to the person applying. So as long as they meet all the criteria, the being available when we need them for our clients, things like that, willing to take the class, have the right kind of attitude. And I'm sure in construction as well, one of the most important things is how they interact with clients and things like that. So when somebody comes into an interview and they're, they don't have that certification, but they've got a great attitude, they make eye contact, they, listen and answer the questions that you ask and different things like that, then we want to be able to take that good candidate and teach them the things that they don't know about our industry, and, the things that you can't teach, which are, manners and how you carry yourself and how to talk to people and things like that.
So let me ask you, I know that you're a little bit different than the major hospitals or doctors' offices. And are you seeing, I keep reading about how nurses are just exhausted. They're
Right.
exhausted. The past couple of years have been, I would probably say hardest on our nurses and our teachers, and you'll have to all the fun sounds coming from my phone in the other room. But the nurses and our teachers, I would say, are two of them. I would say most exhausted, workers out there right now. Do you guys, has that affected y'all much with like the in-home care so much?
Not so much. So all of our caregivers work pretty much one-on-one with clients. So, in the hospital setting and the nursing homes and nursing facilities, rehab places, things like that, you've got, one CNA, sometimes per floor, especially overnight shifts, things like that. Whereas we're more one-on-one, we may have a husband and wife, and we may, if we're cooking for the husband, we may make something for the wife too, so that, they're both kind of getting the benefit of that. But, we haven't seen that as much. We have seen a lot more applicants come that don't want to work at the hospital anymore, or at the rehab facilities and nursing homes, because they are just being stretched too thin. And with there being a nursing shortage, when we don't have someone available, sometimes we just have to tell that client we don't have anyone today, or we use a fill-in or something like that. Whereas those facilities, they have to maintain staff and have someone there. So a lot of times they end up staying 20 hours a day, something like that, having to work.
Yeah, I remember. So my daughter, Autumn, which a lot of you guys have heard on Talk Local to me before, she's also our assistant events and membership director, but she's also a CNA. And so she works 2 days a week currently for Velocity Care in the Smith Mountain Lake area. But she did used to work for a hotel. Well, it feels like a hotel, hospital in our area. And I remember there were days, and she actually started, she got her CNA license in high school. She went through a class here in Bedford. And so she started working when she was a junior, and she's been doing it ever since. But I remember days that she was there, hours, and then someone wouldn't show up for their shift. So
Yep.
she'd have to stay. I remember times when it snowed and people couldn't get in. There was one time, I think she stayed almost 2 days. Like she'd sleep on
Yep.
and off in a different room, and she'd have to stay because no people couldn't get in or they called out. She was there when COVID first hit, and she was one of the COVID nurses or trained COVID nurses. At first, they had like certain ones that would work on COVID floors and certain ones that wouldn't. And she'd be there for hours in the masks and the suits and stuff. And I always wonder, like, how do you continue to do this without being burnt out? So I can kind of see where moving to home health, where it's just a one-on-one sort of thing, would be.
Yeah. And a much more flexible schedule, different things like that.
Yeah. So are you hiring?
We are.
currently?
We are always, I joke that we are always hiring, but we are hiring. We're looking for some individuals to work with clients in the home. And, talking about that starting pay again, we're $13 an hour, and we've actually got my number 2 in the office, I guess. My client care coordinator actually started with us as a caregiver and worked our way from that to a scheduler to client care coordinator. And, it's interesting to see how she interacts with the caregivers, because that's where she came from. And, that's what we want to see is, tell us the things that we don't see. My background is not in healthcare. I mean, before this, I was a florist. So, and then before that, in electronics.
I forgot you were a
Oh,
florist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
Valentine's Day is coming up, folks.
yep. So I'm so glad I'm not in that anymore. I'll deal with COVID restrictions all day long rather than Valentine's Day at a florist. But anyway, but yeah, so my background is in this, it's administration and different things like that. So, sometimes I'm still, after 5 years, I'm still learning things like, oh, I didn't realize that was an issue for you. And we try to, we actually have a platform that we started in November where we actually have a chat where we can go to all of our caregivers and we can say, hey, what challenges are you guys facing this week? And they can actually let us know, like, my app to clock in and out won't work properly. Well, if you don't tell us, we don't know. And we've actually, early on, we changed our whole scheduling software because, which was a major ordeal to do. But we did it because the caregiver feedback, if you don't know what they're going through, then you don't know how to fix the issue and be a better employer, and as a result, a better company. Speaking of which, we just had another award delivered yesterday.
Your wall's going to fall down. He's going to need somebody from Build Smart to come build him a new wall for all his awards.
I jokingly told the person that brought it, like, now I'm going to have to put up another shelf because I think we've got almost 30 awards hanging on the wall. And in 5 years, that's, pretty daggone impressive. Sad dog doesn't wag its own tail.
Yeah.
But the,
fact.
but yeah, it's, we have really worked hard to be a caregiver focused company and empower our caregivers to be client focused. And, obviously that has worked because they are our hands and feet in the field. So, I can talk nice to a client all day long. If our caregiver isn't delivering the quality care that they need in the way that they need it, we're really not doing anybody any good. So, we want to match that personality with a person as much as we do the skill level for care. So,
So I know I've had you in a couple of times and we've talked about the impact of COVID on your business. But Alicia, how did that affect Build Smart when COVID hit, and in a way, how did that kind of affect you guys?
We were super smart in that we decided to start a new company in the midst of of COVID. That was super smart. But I think most of our team's mentality is, don't tell me I can't do it. Let's figure it out.
Right.
So we did. Now it delayed things. But we've got enough space in that facility that we were able to spread out, follow the mandates and still operate even throughout opening in the midst of COVID. So for the most part, it really didn't hurt us. In fact, before we actually opened the facility, with everything shutting down, it's really what prompted us to start into the design of our virtual portal. We never would have done that on the front end had COVID not taken place during that period. But with everything shutting down, we said, okay, let's focus some of our efforts into this virtual portal, which is a great thing now for, it's a great opportunity for people to use virtually. So, that's probably one thing that was born out of that never would have come to fruition had that not been the case.
Yeah. I think that's something I touch on it quite a bit, is how, more people realize that they could work from home or they could do things virtually and still get the job done. And another thing I was going to ask, you were talking about your caregivers, and I guess this is kind of towards both of you, but have you seen where, and I feel like, this year more than ever, or, last year leading into this year, is showing, your employees kind of not really a way to like, not debrief, but, giving them some stress relief, letting them, acknowledging the good work that they've done during this whole pandemic and giving them that opportunity to, work from home. Well, I guess, in your case, Mike, they're working from home.
They're working from someone else's home.
They're working from someone else's home.
Well, at FNS, we can't really build buildings from home.
From home. Exactly.
We're good, but we're not that good.
But I know that you do things to acknowledge your employees, like things like that. I feel like that helps keep good employees where they're at too, when their employers are showing that they are, proud of what they've done. I keep smacking my head on this thing. Sorry, guys. But you know what I'm trying to say here is just showing those employee recognitions. It's part of a benefit in a way. And I think that's what keeps employees.
How we do that?
Yeah,
yes.
That's kind of what I'm asking.
So one of the things that we do is
in a roundabout way.
Our goal is we have some of our staff that'll send out handwritten notes that say, thank you for what you're doing.
Yes.
We try to call and check on them if we know that somebody's having a rough time. We've even gone as far as, we deal with the seniors and the elderly, and sometimes they pass away. So usually, if they've worked consistently with that client for a while and, we don't have something for them right away, we'll kind of pay them what I call training shifts. So we'll say, hey, here's some online training, do this. We're going to pay you for the same hours as if you were still working, for a week or two. Give us time to find something. I jokingly call it the don't go look for another job bonus. So, and I tell them, take this time, these are the days that we're going to pay you. Take this time, relax. Don't worry about it. Let us find you something and, give us a little time that way. Plus we, do little gifts at Christmas, things like that. We do gift cards throughout the year. We have something called Care Bucks, where if they get a compliment from another caregiver or from a client, or even just we have something that we're like, oh, we got to staff this in a hurry because somebody couldn't make it to work today, and they pick it up, we reward them with that. And I can't tell you how many times that my employees come into our office and cash out these Care Bucks for gift cards, dollar for dollar. And they're, I had somebody the other day come and get $75 worth of gift cards, and she didn't even know she had anything in her mailbox. So, we try to show appreciation throughout the whole year. When we first started, we did an employee of the month. And then I realized that, when you've got like that star employee, you keep trying to want to go back to them and you can't keep going to the same person. So, developed this program to where we could recognize all of our staff for doing a good job. Because when all of your staff is amazing, it's hard to single out just one.
I have that same problem. I hate having to choose something, like we did the member of the week sort of thing. I'm like, how do you choose different members? Then it was just kind of like, okay, we kind of went through the list and chose different members.
How do you pick that? Because I don't think I ever got that.
No, you didn't yet.
Okay.
And she left your logo off.
And she left my logo
off. So
I'm starting to see a pattern here, Mike. I'm just saying.
We are going to go back to that for 2022. We kind of stopped doing it because we were going to their business.
Well, I know who your first one is.
It ended up with COVID, we kind of stopped that program because we couldn't go into the business so much and do the whole member of the week thing. But, we choose our volunteer of the year, which I do believe you were.
Oh, that was me, wasn't
last
it?
year. So let's just say, put that out there. But speaking of business awards, just to kind of close out today, I will mention two things with the Central Virginia Business Coalition that we have coming up. If you're out there and you don't have to be a member of the CVABC to nominate a business in our area, we have our business awards we have our Evening of Elegance that will be happening on March 17th and St. Patrick's Day. We're doing a whole kind of Do You Feel Lucky Evening of Elegance awards.
Do I have to dress like a leprechaun?
No, but if you did, it would make my day.
Okay.
Made my day.
Okay.
But no, so we have different categories that are, members can nominate each other. You can self-nominate or just members of the community, small business, large business. We have restaurant of the year, retail business of the year, nonprofit of the year, citizen of the year, service provider. So your contractor, if you have a contractor that's done good work, you can nominate them. And then we have our community service award. So if you know of a business that's gone above and beyond to provide excellent community service to our area. So, and our Rising Star, which is a business that has opened within the last 2 years. So any business right now that opened during COVID,
And
you might want to nominate.
Last year, was that Taproots?
Yeah, Taproots.
Taproots, who opened during, I was going to say something about them, opened during COVID and have done a great job at trying to keep their customers safe and growing a lot.
You know, I'm going to just give a huge shout out to most, if not all, small businesses that I saw so many that started up in the pandemic. Like you said, they did that smart thing and they opened a business. And most of them, I would say like 97% of the ones that I know of, they're still rolling. I mean, they are going, they pushed through. They have, you know, it's remarkable, you know, what I saw small businesses endure in the past 2 years and how they have kind of overcome and shifted and adapted. So that's huge. And then speaking of Valentine's Day, I'll throw this out there. Our director of events, Tina LaValle, came up with a fabulous idea. We're going to be hosting our very first pop-up shop in our office. And so it's going to be the Friday before Valentine's Day and then Valentine's Day, which is a Monday. But we have 4 new businesses. One's a florist, one's a jeweler, a cheesecake company, and a cookie company that's all going to be popped up.
Cheesecake, I'm in.
Yes, they're all going to be popped up in our office for those 2 days. People can stop in, grab last-minute Valentine's gifts. So if you haven't bought your wife something, you want to come by, you can get flowers, chocolates, and jewelry all in one spot.
Is that Holy Heaven Cookies?
Yes, it is.
I'll be
Holy Heaven Cookie Company.
I hope my husband is listening. That's a one-stop shop.
Yep. It's Petal Ridge Farms, where you can actually come and create your own bouquet. She brings all these flowers. You create your own bouquet. I think it's like $1 a flower. It's awesome. And then we have Mia's Sweet Spot will be there with the cheesecakes. And then we have Prissy Nerd will be there with her jewelry. So we have 4 different companies that will be there. And then I know for a fact Mia's and Holy Heaven are going to be doing pre-orders where you can pre-order and pick them up there. So that's going to be super cool. And we're going to have flyers out about that soon. But yeah, our first ever pop-up shop for 4 of our small businesses. Excellent. So I'm really excited about that. And we're planning on doing some more of those throughout the year to kind of highlight different businesses that don't have necessarily a brick and mortar store for you to go into. And I'll probably will leave some cookies for you. Maybe. If you have not had Holy Heaven Cookie Company's cookies, holy heaven, you need to go do it.
I'll be there early.
They are fabulous. I mean, they're like this big and they're stuffed. Like
they're amazing.
The one with the Oreo in it.
I've eaten a lot of cookies in my day and they are top notch.
Yeah, they are. Like I would honestly say if you've ever had a crumble cookie, have you ever had a crumble cookie? Better than a crumble cookie. And that's for me, that's high praise.
Big talk right there.
You're darn right. They're delicious. So there you go. But thank you guys so much for coming on with me today. I love being able to kind of educate everyone about the different opportunities that are out there. And like I said, Alicia, I definitely want to have you come back with a graduate. So thank you for listening to Talk Local to Me. We will see you next week. We'll have Marco Galbraith with T4 Tactics coming in with us.